What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some Destiny 2 news, and of course Heresy Act 2 is now live. The launch day itself was very interesting, wasn't it, with the extended server downtime, and the accidental launch of some of the Act 3 content. It actually gives us some further details about some of the stuff we'll get in Act 3, and an event that will tide us over until the first expansion drop of the year. So we'll touch on that, as well as some of the Act 2 content, new secrets, and other future updates that we're going to be getting, as well as a very likely announcement for Marathon in the near future. And Bungie outlined some updates they'll be bringing for the Crucible a little further down the road, as well as a handful of other items which we'll talk about today. So if you guys enjoy this one, a rating below really does help us out. Now though, let's get into it. And so initially, yesterday at launch, of course, one of the most bizarre things after the server maintenance was that some of the Rite of the Nine event, which we're getting in Act 3, actually went live early. So players were able to head into dungeons that'll be featured for that event and pick up broken versions of weapons that we'll be getting. And that whole thing was pretty bonkers. Bungie had said initially they were going to have to take the game offline for emergency maintenance. Then they updated to say D2 will remain online, and they've instead disabled access to all of the Rite of the Nine activities. For the moment though, we're still able to hold on to our weird buggy guns for any players who managed to pick them up. Linked to that though, Bungie Leaks shared right here an icon for a title associated with that event. I'm kind of getting Into the Light vibes a little bit as well. As Destiny Bulletin shared, it looks like Heavy Metal, which is the new mechs versus tanks PvP mode that we'll get in Act 3, will get its own emblem as well. And interestingly, it has the same icon as the title seal icon. So it looks like that will be an overarching sort of visual for the Act 3 content event, essentially Into the Light 2.0. Another interesting component though, there is a Marathon themed emblem, which is now visible in the database, and Destiny Bulletin shared it right here. We've been anticipating an announcement for Marathon at some point this episode. There's indications that that could happen in April, which of course are further supported by the fact that we see things like this in the game files. So as always, new Destiny content drops, bringing interesting additions. A quick update from Bungie here though, they say we're currently investigating an issue where some players are unable to access Sunder Doctrine, Salvation's Edge, and Excision. So at the moment, for whatever reason, it isn't possible to actually boot those modes up, which is bizarre. Also, we did get another holo chip item in the Eververse store. These cost silver, as we learned last time, but there's one called Winged Victory now, which literally gives you wings. So I guess that's a thing if you want to pick it up. And for Act 2 itself, of course, initially there's a big story segment, and alongside that we get one of the coolest cinematics that I think we've ever actually had for the game. But on the content front, otherwise, Court of Blades is now live, and we can get both the new Heresy weapons, the Adept variants, and barrow-dyad catalyst. As we progress through all of that stuff, I won't go into it in a massive amount of detail right here, as I do have a separate video, but some of you guys may be interested in ways for solo players to farm the Adept weapons for Act 2, as well as easy methods to complete the barrow-dyad catalyst upgrade, so I'll link that video down below. A separate thing that's also been added recently, but Bungie Leaks shared, upcoming Bungie Foundation shader, and we're going to get one called Steadfast Column, which has got this cool, is that kind of tealy, greeny blue colour on it, so that will be dropping at some point in the future. Otherwise, let us know your first impressions for Act 2, and Bungie give an update regarding future patch changes that they'll be making. So they say over the last few weeks, we've been watching and engaging with combat in the Crucible and taking some notes. We've recently taken a pass on Bolt Charge due to higher damage than intended, and of course they've made the changes for Redrix's S-Stock, lightweight pulse rifles on the Prowl, and smoke effects in the update this week. But in terms of stuff they're looking at in future, they say Warlock snap skating is an unintended movement technique that gives players some great advantages in map control and general movement during combat. While this can be enjoyable and fun to master, this presents some rough balance issues within PvP, and additionally it's creating issues with readability of opponents mid-combat. Guardian bodies can become warped and stretched when skating, making it very difficult to fight opponents mid-skate, and in a future patch we plan to address this, so snap skating is something that Bungie are targeting in the near future. Otherwise, they say the closing time perk grants some great stats to your magazine when it's low, especially when enhanced on special ammo weapons. But as players always spawn with low special ammo, for now, wink wink, these stat buffs are almost always on in the Crucible, making various weapons perform a bit too well in 1v1 combat. Zealot's Reward is an example, which can hit pretty far ranges thanks to the perk, and the always on nature of its functionality, so we plan to tune this perk specifically on special weapons in a future patch. But they go on to say Tommy's matchbook has become a frequent conversation among the online community, and rightly so. For many years this weapon has been a bit of a sleeper in terms of its strength of baseline improved hipfire functionality, but with recent changes to Radiant Dance Machines, We're seeing more hunters pulling out this exotic with some silly hipfire only builds. Like we did with DMT in The Last Word, we're going to tune this interaction in a future update, and we'll have more details in the next TWID. And alongside those changes, they'll be re-enabling Dead Man's Tale and The Last Word to interact with Radiant Dance Machines in a much more limited set of buffs that do not increase range but still provide some amount of increased accuracy. So another change coming on that front. And then they speak about Radiant Dance Machines, and they say they've surged in popularity in the Crucible since the rework, and they're seeing nearly 3 times the adoption on mouse and keyboard compared to controller. After the recent issue with Lodestar's hipfire precision aim assist being significantly higher, we dug deeper into Radiant Dance Machine's setup and realized that the same issue is present, albeit in a less significant amount. So in update 8251, we'll be normalizing the precision angle and the threshold bonus provided by the accuracy buff between controller and mouse and keyboard when using that exotic. And we've also corrected an issue in a few other places that could appear, for example, the legacy frame intrinsic perk on SDoc and BXR. This will reduce the ease of getting critical hits when hip firing on mouse and keyboard when paired with one of these 3 items, and should bring the effectiveness more in line with controller. On top of that, they say they have changes coming for lighting on various maps in the future, and they reference Solitude, which was featured this last weekend. But they're aware of a bunch of other lighting issues on maps, and they're looking to get some bugs filed for future opportunities to either tune the lighting or make changes to help combat in those spaces. So actually quite a few sandbox changes coming for PvP specifically a little down the road. I'm not sure whether that will be before Act 3 or they're referencing the Act 3 patch itself, but considering that Act 3 is now less than 3 weeks away, it won't be an absolutely massive amount of time until we see more of these changes, so give us your thoughts on them below. For today though guys, that is what we have to speak about, so share your thoughts on any of those adjustments in the comment section, and I'd love to get impressions of Act 2 so far, any good Loader Seeder roles that you've picked up, or thoughts on Guardian games. By the time this video is live, I'm sure I'll have actually put some time into Guardian games. As I'm making this video, I've yet to head in there, so curious to check it out. I'm hearing some good things about the game mode, so give us your thoughts below and get subscribed to the channel for more Destiny content. Otherwise though, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.
I formed my throne with the stroke of a sword, as the Hive Gods did long ago. Their tribute in blood coalesced into worlds. You have seen Oryx's throne, his dreadnought, his court, what he called the High War. Here, the memory of the Taken King recognizes his equal, his killer, his heir. But his sisters will come to claim him as brother and as instrument of power. Xivu Arath was sundered from her throne as she was sundered from her siblings. She would retake it all and return to their path of death and conquest. Savathun in her high coven, having claimed the light, wishes to escape. Both the vows made to the worms and the lie that drove the siblings to that bargain. But their designs will be unmade. Their desires, their undoing. I name my throne the High Heresy, formed in opposition to the Hive. Here I am Heresiarch. Here I am Jailer. For my throne will be Oryx's prison.